Hey everyone, and welcome to Riff Battle Royal 1973, wherein I have lots of fun learning some cool classic riffs, give them each a playthrough, and you guys can pick the winner with your votes down below in the comments. But before we dig into what are, in my opinion, the 10 greatest guitar riffs from the year 1973, we've yet to determine a winner from 1972, from the video I did about 3 weeks ago. You can check out the videos from 1970, 1971, and 72 down below in the description box if you may have missed them. So without further ado, the winner of Riff Battle Royal 1972 is this fantastic riff from Mr. Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top from their second album, Rio Grande Mud. Great bloody riff, that, and a hell of a lot of fun to play. Good choice, people. Second place in our little battle went to Smoke on the Water, of course, by Ritchie Blackmore, with third place slotting in with the solo intro riff to Reelin' in the Years by Elliott Randall and Steely Dan. Good stuff. Moving on. Now, before we get started, I just want to give a thanks to my buddy Ronnie for lending me his brand new Ibanez AZ Prestige for a few nights to mess around with. Just a beauty of a high-end Ibanez guitar. I put it to good use over the past couple of nights and highlighted it in a couple of these riff covers. Thanks for that, Ronnie. Just a gorgeous guitar you've got there. All right, let's get started. Let's start off Riff Battle 1973 with contender number 10 and another great Alice Cooper riff. He's been here on the past two lists for 1971 and 1972, and it's no surprise that he's back here again. Alice's guitarist during the classic original lineup, Michael Bruce, was an absolute riff master of the highest order, pumping out one classic guitar riff after another during the early 70s. This is one of his best, from Alice's fantastic 1973 $1 Billion Babies album. Let's see what it is. Contender number 9 is from one of my all-time favorite guitar players, the great Dickie Betts and the Allman Brothers Band, from the band's 1973 album Brothers and Sisters, their first after the tragic death of Dickie's guitar brother-in-arms within the band, Duane Allman. This one's more of a melody line than straight-up classic riff, but it's repeated numerous times within the track, so we're going to call it a riff. As in the case of Reelin' in the Years by Steely Dan and Elliott Randall in my last video for 1972, it's my video, so it's my rules. I guess technically you would call this one a monophonic guitar riff, meaning no chords. Regardless, let's give contender number 9 a listen. Moving on to contender number 8. Contender number 8 isn't as high profile as many others on this list, but it certainly doesn't diminish this great riff in any way. It's from legendary 70s guitarist Ronnie Montrose from his band Montrose's 1973 debut album entitled Montrose. A track that lead vocalist at the time, one Mr. Sammy Hagar, still performs live to this day. This track can still be heard on classic rock radio in certain markets that have classic rock radio with good taste and diversity. Let's see what this great Ronnie Montrose riff is. Moving on, contender number 7 is one of those riffs that every guitar player knows, or at least should know. It's nearly as ubiquitous to 1970s guitar as is Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple. It's a rather simple 4-chord power chord riff that seems like one of those riffs that's just always existed and was just waiting for someone to come along and pull it from the musical ether, if you know what I mean. That someone happened to be Tom Johnson, guitarist and original lead vocalist of the Doobie Brothers back in 1973. Stemming from the band's multi-platinum album, The Captain and Me, this riff needs little more introduction, so let's give it a playthrough. Contender number 6. We've done 4 already, but now we're steady. And then they went 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, Jimmy Page is back, surprise, surprise. And if you've caught my little giveaway right there at the beginning of this little introduction, then you already know what riff this is going to be from the mighty Led Zeppelin. From 1973's Houses of the Holy album, this track closes out the album and is one of the greatest and most recognizable guitar riffs ever laid down by the great Jimmy Page. Let's check out contender number 6 and give it a listen.
Now we're steady and then they win. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sunshine,
Contender number 5 is from one of my other personal favorite guitarists of all time, and a bloke who's been on every one of my lists so far, if I'm not mistaken. And that bloke's name is Ritchie Blackmore from Deep Purple. He who gave Jimmy Page a real run for his money in churning out one fantastic guitar riff after another during the early 70s. This one is from the band Deep Purple's 1973 album, Who Do We Think We Are, and was actually written not by Ritchie Blackmore, but by bassist Roger Glover. Now, I don't know if Roger Glover composed the actual riff that we're talking about here, because it's got Blackmore's signature style written all over it. But regardless, fantastic riff nonetheless. Let's check it out. Contender number 4 in Riff Battle Royal 1973 is one of the most recognizable and raunchiest riffs to come out of the 70s. And if we're talking raunchy riffs, we can only be talking about one person, Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. A riff borrowed and made his own from the 1948 John Lee Hooker classic, Boogie Chillin'. The band would get sued by those who owned the rights to Boogie Chillin' at the time and would settle out of court with the rights owners. But apparently they won that battle overall, as a judge determined that lots of classic blues riffs and passages were now in the public domain for free use. Lots of copyright laws were changed in the music industry because of this ruling, so it's rather important in the grand scheme of things, aside from being a very cool riff. Y'all know this riff. Let's give it a listen.
Rumors spreading around in that Texas town. By the side, outside the game. You know what I'm talking about. Just let me know if you wanna go to that home out on the range. They got a lot of nice guys.
My choice for contender number 3 is one of those rather strange riffs that doesn't actually start the song. Most of them do. But it's the main rhythm driver under the vocals during the verses of this track. Guitarist Rick Derringer was a member of the Johnny Winter group in the early 70s, and he wrote this track for Johnny Winter and for Johnny Winter's 1970 album, Johnny Winter. And Johnny Winter would have a modest success with the track upon its release, but when Rick Derringer went out on his own to form his own group in 1973, he would re-record the track for his debut album and score a major rock hit with the song. Sadly, his only major rock hit. Regardless, killer hook, great song, and most importantly to the topic at hand, great bloody guitar riff. Let's check it out.
There was a group called the Chokers, they were laying
For contender number 2 in Riff Battle Royal 1973, we welcome back perennial list entrant Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath with another classic early 70s heavy metal riff. Between Iommi, Page, and Blackmore, it's really hard to narrow down which could be considered the greatest overall riff master of the early 70s, or of all time, for that matter. These guys were pulling one incredible guitar riff after another out of the guitar void like they were a dime a dozen. Pro tip, they're most definitely not a dime a dozen. This one stems from Sabbath's 1973 offering Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. And it's a fairly simple riff, but that doesn't diminish it in the least. Simple, classic, and heavy as hell in typical Tony Iommi C-sharp tuning. Let's check out what it is. And finally, contender number 1, Brian May and Queen have finally entered the picture and the competition, and he won't be going away for a number of years, I don't think, or any of the lists for the next 6 or 7 years. Queen's grand introduction to the world. This track was side 1, track 1 of their debut album, and these days it's considered one of the greatest classic Queen tracks of all time. At the time, however, in 1973, it was released as the band's very first single in their home country of England and in the United States, and basically nobody cared or gave a damn. The song did absolutely nothing on the charts. No accounting for taste, I suppose, even during that hard rock early 70s utopia that was dominating the music world and filling up the rock charts and the AM radio charts. This riff, which opens the track, was, like I said, Brian May and Queen's grand introduction to the world, and also the very first time we would hear that sweet tone out of Brian May's famous Red Special homemade guitar. Regardless, let's finish up 1973's list with this Queen classic. Well, there you have it. In my humble opinion, the 10 greatest guitar riffs from the year 1973. Thank you for watching, as always, and don't forget to drop your vote down below in the comments for what you feel is the greatest riff of 1973, either one of the 10 that I chose or one of your own choosing, I suppose. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. That would be awfully nice. And don't forget to hit the little notification bell as well so you know when I upload something new. I hope you're well in your little guitar corner of the world, wherever that may be. Thanks as always for watching, like I said, and we'll see you next time when we have a look at the 10 greatest guitar riffs from the year 1974. Over and out. Cheers. We'll see you next time.